Hello, everybody. Welcome to Monday night, the day before Christmas Eve. What is going on? Hopefully, everyone is enjoying some sort of holiday week of vacation. And yeah, I said I was going to take a break from streaming, and here I am. But it was a long weekend of doing nothing, and you know what? I figured I could just sit here and it's starting to snow, and yeah, so I figured I'd just stream. It was a fun day. I finished work early and managed to get out and do some ice skating, so that was pretty good. Maple, come here. They want to see you. Why don't you lay down? Good girl. All right. Yeah, let me know if the music is too loud. I can always turn it down a little bit. She said she might come back later. We'll see. Her mom might be making something to eat or something. Let's see here. Boy, I apologize. I'm sorry. You can always catch the VODs later. That's quite all right. You don't have to watch everything that we do. It's totally all right. Yeah, Nober, we had a Patreon poll. I was just like, look, there's a couple things that I was just gonna mess around with, and one of them is that I have just recently purchased, I guess, whatever subscription to Inkarnate, which I've never used before. So I was like, hey, do you guys want to see me fumble around with this map making program? What's up, Booth? I was just having a cookie, Booth. Yeah, Mr. T, this is more of a vibe stream, no real topic. We're just kind of hanging out here. No set end date, We can just all hang out and shoot the shit and, mess around with stuff. Yes, the puppy cam is there, although right now there is no puppy. Let's see here. Chilling with the stream while wrapping presents, Luke says. Awesome. A little late for that, isn't it, in the season? Well, thank you, Gonzo. I think so, too. I have a dog that can cook? No, not quite. Hello, Satir. Hello, Will. Hello, Ken. What's going on? So yeah, let's see here. Well, so basically, where is it? Here it is. We have this, we have Inkarnate. And, Inkarnate is a web-based map-making program, apparently. And I know that Smith had used it to make some of the NR maps. And so I am on the hook to run what's the word I'm looking for? I'm on the hook to run some Torchbearer streams and run some Torchbearer sessions. And one of the things that you have to do for Torchbearer is make a map. And I know Smith had used Inkarnate to make the maps for Northern Reaches, and he said it was pretty good. And I've heard other people say that it's a pretty cool program. So I figured I would go ahead and take a look at it and see. I don't know, we could just mess around, but also mostly just to hang out with everybody and just kind of, enjoy some nice, newly minted winter vibes, right? All right, well, we're going to skip the FAQ and we'll get into creating our first map. So I've never used this program before, so I have no idea what we're getting into. Okay, so, and again, the only thing I did is I signed up for the pro version or whatever, so. And in case we need it, my stylus is standing by, but we'll see what we can get by with the map. All right, so it looks like, option 1 is for fantasy battle maps. So we don't really need, we don't necessarily not need that, but for Torchbearer, we won't need that. I mean, I am kind of somewhat focused here, and what I want to really create is a regional map, and we've talked about this before on stream, but Torchbearer has sort of a process by which you want to create a regional map. You don't necessarily have to follow exactly what they outline in the course of the book, but you do want to have some areas where there's at least a couple of different cities, a couple of different locations where they can go for dungeons and stuff. And so this is from the Scholar's Guide, which is like the GM guide, and this is kind of showing the regional map that they use as an example for where you might and again they encourage you to kind of create your own world. And you can even see here that on the inset they have actually like the whole, like a bigger section of the continent. So this is kind of zoomed in on this northeast section here, and they've got a couple different towns and forests and mountains. So if we could end up creating something that looks something like this, I'd be pretty happy with that for sure. So we've got fantasy battle maps. I'm not really worried about that. So here we go, fantasy world maps. So this looks very detailed. This style works best for large-scale maps, countries, continents, or even entire worlds. Well, I don't necessarily know that I need to do an entire world, but this might be an option. I will admit that I'm a little bit biased. I love like sort of the, if you've read Earthsea by Le Guin, or obviously if you've read Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, I love that kind of hand-drawn sort of black and white style of maps. Big fan of those. So watercolor cities. All right, well, we're not worried about making cities just yet, but that's pretty cool. Fantasy regional. Okay, well, this looks a little too zoomed in, right? So, like, look how, like, this is definitely, I think, too far. Okay, well, that doesn't look too bad. This is kind of the scale that I was thinking of. But I don't necessarily need this, like, weird isometric view. All right, sci-fi battle maps. Don't need to worry about that, but that's cool. A lot of this stuff seems to be around battle maps. Makes some kind of sense. Watercolor battle maps. Again, more battle maps. Although I must say, I love the look of these assets. Wow, these are great. And then we have Parchment World. Give your map a beautiful, aged, hand-drawn parchment look with this style. Ooh. Okay. This looks kind of promising. All right, let's check it out. All right. Resolution. Well, I guess we'll leave it on medium, I guess. And we'll go landscape, because why not? There we go. All right. Now, as a reminder, I've never used this before. So if anybody has any tips or advice, I'm happy to listen. Let's see. Okay, I just want to make sure everything here is on the screen. So there's like a layer thing over here, but I'm not going to really show that. All right. Okay, so we've got over here. I don't know how best to show this. Let me zoom this in a little bit. All right, there we go. All right, so we've got our toolbar over here on the left, which we've got I'm assuming this is the select tool. Okay, so that's our select tool. This is our mask tool, M, which lets us create land masses. Okay, so we've got an add and subtract brush. Okay, cool. It says here that you can switch to the subtract brush with toggling with X, but it looks like they use Photoshop's thing where Alt switches your brush, which is good because I'm very used to Adobe Photoshop. You can change your brush size. Can I do that with brackets? No, that's what it is in Adobe. S and W. Okay. Nice. Cool. And you can hold shift to make it bigger steps, which is good. Just like Adobe. So there's like some things here that are like Photoshop. All right. Roughness. Not sure what that means. Maybe it's like the roughness of the things. Enable mask effects. Smooth the edges. Other options. Oh, okay. So we can add a stroke, an outline, outer shadows, inner shadows, and ripples. Well, let me just turn those all off first because I want to see what this looks like without it. Okay, so here we go. So I'm not. So this must. Okay, so this must be like the land mass that we're drawing. Okay, and then so I wonder what happens if we take the roughness up. Okay, so it's a little bit more, less pixelated. So 32 is the biggest we could go here, and 8's the default. But then we can also go down to 1 or 3. And 3 is basically a completely smooth thing. Okay. Okay. Okay, Control Z undoes. That's good. I don't know. I kind of like the rougher thing because it looks a little bit more natural, I think. But I could be wrong here. All right, so let's just say we've got this little island here. So now let's take a look at what these mask effects do. So stroke, I'm assuming, puts a stroke around it. Yes, it does. We can change the color of it. Cool. Hot pink. There we go. And we can change the width of the stroke, which is good. All right. Yep, there, hot pink. Good deal. I don't know what they originally had. So let's make it black. And then there's also an opacity, so we can probably make this, which just basically doesn't do much there. All right, and outline. Increase the outline here. I wonder what this outline does. Okay, so that's so it's like a outline above the stroke. Okay, that's kind of cool. I don't know why you would need 2 colors, but maybe you really want the high contrast. And then outer shadows will obviously be shadows that lay on the outside of it, which makes sense to me. Oh, that looks neat. We can change how much we want the blur. Okay, we can change how far out the distance of the shadow goes. That's a little too far. And then intensity is probably like opacity. Yeah. Looks pretty good. And then inner shadows was obviously on the inside of the stroke. Yeah, I kind of like that. Look at that. That even looks kind of nice with the very, maybe the outer shadows too much. Let's change. Can we change intensity down to? Yeah, that's not enough. Let's go to the defaults. But make it white. Yeah, I just want a little bit of kind of shoreline there. That looks pretty good, I think. Again, I'm just messing around here. I don't even know. How do we zoom? All right. Okay, well, that's my is there a hand tool? All right, okay. Spacebar. Okay, pan and zoom. Mouse wheel, spacebar key lets us pan and oh, okay, yeah, zoom wheel does work. Okay, cool. Ooh, nice. We can shift to change the brush size and hold and scroll with our mouse wheel. Good to know, on accident. Satir says, I think a bluish outer shadow would look like shallow ocean. I don't know. I mean, we can try it out. Let's see here. Gonna go for a very light blue. Good night, boy. Have a great Christmas. And it's a very dark blue. I don't know. I kind of like, I mean, we can have like a bluish tint to it, but I think it actually kind of looks better white. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. What do you think of chat? Well, that's the other thing too. Is like, you know, the white gives this really high sense of scale of contrast. So. Yeah, right. Exactly, Mark. The white makes it look like a beach. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Spacebar. There we go. All right, so let's see what else we have on this mask option. There was something on ripples. What does that do? Oh, okay. So we can make these real thick ripples. Make a ton of them. Increase the distance. That's kind of cool. Boofy. I already love this program, and I hate anything I would make with it. Well, that's fair. Tundless, you feel like the shadow is wrong. The island looks like a canyon. Well, we don't necessarily need the shadows. I don't know. The inner shadow, I think, to me, I mean, maybe we can make it lighter, I guess, but it kind of looks like a beach, right? Kind of beachy. If we go kind of an orangey sand color, lower the intensity maybe a little bit. No, this is this is Inkarnate. This is Inkarnate. I mean, obviously, there's a million ways that you could play around with this here, but it looks like once you go below a certain intensity, it just shuts off. So the one thing I'm noticing is that when you're inside these windows, you can't really zoom effectively, which is kind of annoying. But that's okay. I mean, we're just messing around here. I've never used this program before. Okay, so roughly speaking, we have a landmass here. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to bring back my outer shadows. I'm going to make them less intense. 0.4, and then I'm going to go to my inner shadows, and I'm going to make it black and make it very less intense. And yeah. Okay. Am I making a location for Dragontide? Dan, I'm not really making anything. I'm just kind of messing around with this program. I just got it today, and I've never used it before, so I'm kind of just messing around with you guys and kind of looking into some stuff. Brush tool lets us paint land and ocean. Okay. So we've got some layer stuff here. And it looks like there's a top layer, foreground layer, and background layer. So that's on our foreground layer. Okay. That's closing off the background layer. Okay. So this is how we can choose where we want to paint. We can paint with a circle brush, a grid brush. Oh, okay, interesting. So that's how they do like that isometric stuff. Rectangle, ellipse, fill the background layer with the active texture or color. So that must just completely fill like a paint bucket. We got a brush size, we got opacity, there's advanced settings. Okay. The scale of the texture, we can change the HSL. Okay, so there's different stamps, I guess. Ew, okay. So remember, I am using technically Parchment World, but so we've got alpha textures, which are basically just black and white opacity textures. This is like a Photoshop thing. Alpha channel is like your transparency channel. That's what alpha means. And then this is just the different textures that they have. Green, grays, blues. Some of these are labeled as water textures, stone texture, winter. They have these cool tags. That's kind of cool, so you can search for them, I guess. It's like if I type in winter, we got all these different winter textures. Let me go to the foreground. Yeah. And I'll go to this. And can I control the softness of the brush? A and Q. Okay, so that's how we control our softness. So this is a very soft brush. So we can make it bigger. There we go. There's our winter wonderland world. our ice world. Now we could probably have just done that with the fill command, huh? So let's just change it here. We'll go to the this. Maybe there's a spring texture. Nope, there does not seem to be a spring texture. Summer? No. Grass? All right, there we go. We'll go with this one, grass. And then we're on foreground. We hit fill. Boom, there we go. Cool. Cool. Maybe we'll try this one instead. Fill. I like this kind of more pale green. Looks much more featureful than when I used it. Yeah, again, my first time actually using it, so I have no idea what's going on. How much is it? It was not much. You can buy like the whole year for like 20 something bucks or something. It is, it's web based, so it's not like Photoshop or something where you have to download it, which is a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you view it. Okay. Now we should be able to go. I wonder if we go back to our mask and we add something. Okay, it'll be the same color. And again, that's due to that roughness. So now I want to try something here. I want to try subtracting. So I'm going to make this kind of a small brush. I want to see if I can like create. So let's Alt. Okay. Oh, cool. That's cool. Neat. Very cool. So you just kind of automatically create these like little islands things off the coast. That's pretty sick. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I like that actually a lot. Make this brush a little bigger. Not that big. There we go. That's pretty cool. Kojo, and I'm just experimenting with a new app, Kojo. That's exactly what I'm doing. Although, like I said, we do have, I have two games of Torchbearer that I'm going to be running for patrons in the new year. And, I want to create a regional map that I can share with everybody and we can all kind of point to it. And then we're also trying to kick off our Dragontide game, and that needs probably some cool maps as well. So, I've never used any of these mapping programs. I mean, I had one really long time ago, like Campaign Cartographer. So it's like super old. It was like CAD based. It was actually really, it was cool for the time, but, for the most part, I think I used Hexographer, if you're familiar with Hexographer, but that creates like very old school kind of style hex maps. So this is me just trying a new toy, basically. I got to say though, I'm really impressed with these, this like just the ability to like carve stuff out of the land. That's so cool. All right. Let's get rid of that little point there. Merry Christmas. Well, not quite yet, but we're in good hands. We'll be coming up here tomorrow for Christmas Eve. How about you but for me, for my family, Christmas Eve was always the much bigger holiday than Christmas. Christmas was always a much more understated affair, but growing up, we would always, that was the big. Christmas Eve was when all the cousins and aunts and uncles and cousins, everybody, would go to somebody's house. One of the family members, one of my mom's side of the family, and there'd be like 20 people there, and that was always the big day. But yeah. Yeah, no, Kojo. I eventually I would like to make something, kind of specific, but no, I'm just messing around right now. John says campaign cartographer gave me nightmares. I used to do CAD for printed circuit boards a lifetime ago. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be cool. I mean, I might even have it still somewhere, like the original book for it. But I tried to use it, and I was just like, okay, I'm not smart enough to use this, so I'm not going to try. Okay. All right. So we got some. So that's how our brush works. And again, we can change if we want to do something more circular or ellipse. We can do specific sides as well. We can also move area. Click anywhere on the scene to select a contiguous area, like a myland or a map, and drag it. Oh, look at that. That's cool. So we can move these little islands around, like if I want this thing to be a little bit further off the coast. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet. Let's make an island way out here. We're in the foreground. Oh, because this isn't the mask. We need to go to the mask here. Oh, I'm still in the move section. Gotta change this to the brush. There we go. I want to make my brush a little bigger. With S&W. All right, very cool. That is very, very neat. Like it a lot that you can do that. All right. So let's give ourselves, let's just fill in some of this here down here, just because. Oh yeah, we'll make some sort of inner lake or something. All right, so that's just painting, and that's cool. There's all these different textures. And again, too, remember, I'm specifically working in the parchment texture, so I'm sure if we go up into this, like, fantasy regional section here, here, we go to grasslands. Yeah, see, like, we've got a little bit more vibrant with some different, patterns to them. That's just not what I'm particularly interested in right now. Okay, oh, here we go. Okay, so the little tower is our stamp tool, which we can hotkey to O. B for brush, M for mask. Okay, V for S. Okay, so M for mask, B for brush, O for our stamp tool. All right, now we're getting to the good stuff. Ooh, look at this. Amount. All right, cool. So I can use Shift and the middle mouse wheel to scale the stamp instead of having to go over here, which is nice. And then this is an opacity. Ooh, I like that because then you can kind of set it into the map a little bit. You don't have to make it pop up as much. I like that. This is a rotation. Yep. Okay. Randomize the rotation. Oh, so like when I stamp it, it just makes different angles. Okay. Oh, that's pretty funny. We'll turn that one off. And then we can choose what layer it goes on. Okay, so this is again where we're kind of having more layers. It's a little bit of clunky layer control compared to something like Photoshop, but I guess it makes it a little bit easier to use here. We can flip the stamp from left to right. Ooh, they have blend modes. Very cool. So for those of you who don't know what a blend mode is how your pixels interact with the top layer interacts with the bottom layer. So like, for example, if you choose the darken blend mode, then if you put something, if you have an image, only the darkest pixels from either the bottom or the top will show through to the top. Whereas multiply actually takes the relative values of luminosity, multiplies them, and so you always end up with a darker image. Darken always darkens down, unless you use pure white, I think, if I recall correctly. So yeah, they got overlay. So like, yeah, like if we overlay, see how it kind of like blends into the pixels a bit more versus if we went normal. So the top one is overlay, and the bottom one is just a normal. Screen will make it brighter, yeah, which will look probably pretty bad because it's a pretty dark stamp. But if we went like multiply, it'll make it darker. That's pretty cool. Obviously, I'm a little benefited here because again, I know how to use Photoshop. But I mean, you can get away with it. Ooh, shadow. Default object, cast shadow on other objects. Custom object shadow. Layer shadow. All right, what's this do? Let's change it back to normal. It looks, I can't tell. I mean, I guess there's kind of a shadow. Okay, and it just kind of like it's kind of a weird shadow. Not like weird, maybe it just doesn't work really well with mountains. Maybe like a tree or something, it would work better. Okay, so I'm noticing something too here. This is pretty cool. So I can hit F and open up the catalog. Okay, and again, this is just in the parchment world that we're dealing with, because again, there's the Fantasy Regional's got all these different stamps that look pretty cool, admittedly. I like this Compass Rose a lot. Oh, these look cool. But again, to me, this looks like more like something you would use for a battle map. But yeah, so if we come down here to like the mountains, we've got mountains, we've got small mountains, we've got large mountains, we have dunes, jagged rocks, karsts, mesas, and volcanoes. But then inside the mountains, there's 7 different stamps of mountain. And what I was noticing, exactly, Tundalus, I was noticing that myself. So it says here, random stamps. After you place a stamp, choose the next one from the set at random. So I could say I just want all of my stamps to be this one. Or I can turn on this random stamps, and then, you know, each one's a little different. Wow, that's pretty cool. Delete these. Can I delete these all? Delete. Hey, there we go. All right, so yeah, that's pretty neat. How does it handle layering? Like if I put this here, where is that going to put it? Huh, it put it behind. I wonder how it knew to put that behind. Now I could move that down. Would that work? Oh, this must be where the layering is things, I guess. How much control do I have over a stamp once it's placed? Oh, I have a lot of control over a stamp. Okay, so I can move this back and forward across the layers. That's pretty cool. And I can scale it up or change the size of it even after it's placed. And I can even move it around. Now, see, this is what I'm wondering. I'm wondering why this is bleeding through. These must be on the same layer. That's why. Yeah, see, I had to move it up a layer. Okay. That's pretty cool. Got to admit, that's pretty neat. Was it O for the stamp tool? Okay. So yeah. And again, we can kind of control the size of these, but you know, we got kind of a mountain range here coming down with maybe a spur range here. We can shrink down the size a little bit. Got some sort of cool valley going on right here. And then let's see what else we got. We gotta have like hills or something, right? Hills, yes, we do. We have small hills and we have large hills. All right, let's go with the. Looks like there's 13 different stamps for the hills. So let's shrink that down a little bit there. Maybe that's a little too much. That's pretty cool. All right, very cool. And again, I mean, like I said, I'm just messing around here. Let's make a big hill. Like, let's pick one here. Let's just pick this one. This is like our weather top. And then I'm going to select that, and I'm going to move that all the way forward so it kind of stands out. There you go. I'm going to move this one up here a little bit. That one more blending in. Oh, okay, so you can select multiple groups of hills too. Maybe there's some sort of like watchtower or ruin or temple on top of this mountain. That'd be kind of cool. All right, I don't want to spend our entire time just playing with different. Hey, look, holidays. We can make little pumpkins. Here's some icons. And again, remember, each of these icons has like a bunch of different icons in it. So like this icon has all these different, you know, I can make a icon like that, or I can make an icon like that. So that's just inside of this one icon catalog. There's our mountains. We've got symbols. We've got terrain. We've got trees. We've got shaded pine trees and regular pine trees. Okay. I don't like to scale that up a little bit. I mean, I'm digging it. That starts to look pretty cool. Dan Y says it would be cool if it had a randomizer that you could then move and adjust the map after. It well made, Dan. I'm just going from the top and I'm going down. I'm just having fun with this as we kind of go down from the hills. Like that's an example of one I want to set up so that it sets the mountain back, and I'm going to make that a little bit bigger just so it sets that back. See, that's like a lot of things that you can do with like depth, you know? So like make that tree a little bigger, just put it in front of the hill, kind of sets the hill back. Like Bob Ross always says, right? Layers to a painting give you the illusion of depth. And he was not wrong. Let's flip this. Cool, look at that. You see, I can just flip that one little hill there. Flip that one over to that side. And look at that. That's kind of cool. Like, so this is one stamp here, right? But like by, let's undo it. But by putting this stamp like this, I can kind of make it look like this is just one ridge, right? So it's like one continuous ridge. That's pretty cool. And again, I like this kind of like, you know, line art, black and white style. I mean, this is obviously more detailed than anything that, you know, Tolkien created, but, you know, I'm sure you could totally create like an awesome, you know, full color map too. And I know that that's what I think Smith used for that, for Northern Reaches. Okay. So that's our stamp tool. And again, I'm sure we could have a lot of fun with that, but, and again, it has the blend modes too, different shadow stuff. So that's pretty neat. I'm sure that you could really use the blend modes to really kind of create the kind of illusion or effect that you wanted to go for. Then we have our text tool. All right. So we've got I would say a good selection of fonts. I wonder if you can add some. No, probably not, because they probably have to have like licenses for them. But this looks reasonably fantasy-like, right? There we go. Hey, we got a super chat. What are your favorite fantasy books for maps? As a kid, I loved how the Redwall series revealed more of the surrounding lands with each book. Well, Tundalus, like I said, I'm a bit of a I'm a bit of a classicist. I mean, for me, I love the map of the world of Hyboria, which was in the Conan stories. Again, it's kind of a black and white drawn map, so I love the map of Hyboria. I love the map of Wheel of Time, Randland, Tolkien's work, Earthsea. I love the maps in that. I'm trying to think of a world that kind of got explored. I mean, each, at least the early books of the Dritz Do'Urden sagas had maps in them. Like the first one had or not the first one, but like the Icewind Dale trilogy had a map of Icewind Dale, and the Homeland had a map of Menzoberranzan. So I definitely like those kind of styles. But like, I would say that those four are really what drive me. Or Earthsea, Tolkien, especially The Hobbit. I mean, I love the map of Lord of the Rings, and it's obviously a quote unquote better map, but like the map of The Hobbit was so good. And Earthsea, Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Cimmerian, in the world of Hyboria, where maps of Middle Earth, and then Wheel of Time and Earthsea. So I would say that those were my favorite. All right, so we got our text here. So I don't know. Let's see here. Early Merry Christmas from Vin. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. It's Christmas Eve over there already. Although it's gotta be, that's so weird that for you that it was like the first day of summer the other day. It's so strange. All right, so let's give these hills a name. So let's drop this text in. I don't want it to say text. Let's come up with a hill name. The hills. We'll call these we'll call them the Briarwood Hills. Okay. So that's kind of big. So can we small it down? Yeah. I don't know how big we want it to be. So we can change the fill of the color, so we can make this something other than white. And we could also get rid of the outline, and we can change the opacity of the outline and all this. Okay. So by default, they have the title kind of by default a little bit down. They had it at like 0.9, so it wasn't like completely standing out. I kind of like that, actually, kind of that it's a little transparent. What layer it's on. Ooh, there's a curve. Oh, look at that. Nice. We can change the spacing. Nice. So we can get it to fill a wider spot. Actually, kind of like that a little bit more spread out there. And I'm assuming we can change the rotation. We sure can. So something like that, right? That looks pretty cool. Let's see if we can change the blend mode. Maybe we can like set it down more into the map. Let's try soft light. There we go. I like that a lot. Yeah, I'm kind of digging that. I think we could probably turn up the opacity now. That we've got it blending. That's pretty cool. All right, I mean, I don't like that this thing is kind of messing with the A. Hold on a second. Can we just? So I want to move this a little bit so we can see these things a little better. The trees move for the name. What is this map for again? Dragonhead? No, it's not for anything. I've heard about this software for a while, and I do need to make some maps for the Torchbearer game, and I need to make some maps for the Dragontide game. And so I just decided to play around with it, and I was like, oh, I'll throw this as an option. Like, people can just hang out with me, and we can, make maps and learn about this program together. So that's all that's going on here. Okay. Well, text tool seems like it probably works pretty well. Although now I kind of want to add some additional. Let's see if it'll let me control paste. Oh, yes, we can control paste. Nice. That's excellent. Let's go back to our stamp tool. Okay. Let's shrink down our size a little bit. All right. Inkarnate is super good, time consuming though. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know what I'm doing, and I just oops, I just made that line of hills. I don't even know what I'm doing, and I feel like I created something pretty fast. I mean, I guess if you're going to do like an entire world, I suppose, but I mean, if you're making an entire world, right? It feels like it should take a long time, right? You know, I love maps. I love overworld exploration. I love. Oh man, if there was only a way that we could make, I've tried a bunch of different games. We just did Forbidden Lands last year, and it worked pretty okay, but it was still missing something. I wish there was somehow a better way to do overworld exploration. The hex crawl is really just not it. I mean, I want to love the hex crawl because it's classic and old school, but it is just not my favorite thing. I'd get sucked in and lose days to this. That's okay. Speaking of getting lost to days for this, let's do we have to save? Let's go to this. Edit map details, save as a clone. We can resize the map. We can export it as an image. We can save an offline backup, so it does save it to the cloud. A recovery, some facts. Okay, so let's save it. Let's give it a map. So this will be called first stream map. Oh, you can group objects. Neat. Okay, so you can take a bunch of group items and then group them into one thing. So like, if I come over here, if I like select like all these different things, I can create as a group, which is just G. Perfect. That's what it should be. We can duplicate it. We can lock it so that we don't accidentally move it. Nice. We can move the whole group up and down a layer. Cool. We can flatten. So what flattening means is you basically get rid of each of these as an individual element, and then you kind of make it into one element. And now instead of being able to separate them, they would just be one image. It probably uses a lot less memory and RAM, and it tends to, make your thing a little bit simpler. So that's pretty cool. Again, a lot of these things are stuff from Photoshop, so they're very clearly, or GIMP or whatever. So that's pretty cool. I like that they're doing that. I mean, that's, for me personally, one of the reasons why I've always been hesitant to use stuff like this is because I'm used to using Photoshop, and obviously I'm not an artist. So like, making one of these things in Photoshop was going to would take me a long time. And I might have to go out and find map assets and then add them in one at a time. It would be kind of a pain, actually. So like having the Photoshop like controls while having access to things like, here's a bunch of random hill stamps that randomly cycle through so that you get this cool variety of texture. I mean, I think that's fantastic. I'm very happy with this so far. Got a bunch of chat coming in here. I still hate overworld exploring and have yet to see anything to make me change my mind. So yes, I get that. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Like, if Forbidden Lands was pretty good, but it still was missing something. What doesn't work for you about the hex crawl for you, Derek? Well, Tundalus, I mean, again, this was, it's a nice last call stream, though, so what would it be if it wasn't that? The main problem that I have is that, and we kind of solved this in our Forbidden Lands campaign. I've talked about this before, but the main problem I have with the traditional hex crawl is you've got this, I don't know, maybe 40 hexes wide by 30 hexes tall, and it's all blank, right? It's all blank, and the players start in one hex, and the problem is they have no context for what's out there in the map. So them picking to go left or to go right doesn't really make any difference. I talk about this in dungeon exploration all the time too, where if you make a fork in your dungeon where there's a left passage and a right passage, that isn't really actually player agency unless they have some context for what's to the left or what's to the right. And it's also part of the reason why I don't like, pointless dead ends and empty rooms and stuff like that in dungeons either, because you don't want to give people a choice that ends up leading them nowhere. So when you give them the blank map, the players are kind of just wandering aimlessly, right? Number two, it can get very repetitive very quickly, right? The players want to get to the dungeon, and so they enter a hex, and then you make a roll for the hex, and then you make another roll for the whatever, and then you make another roll, and then you repeat that the next day, and then you repeat that the next day. It can become very, very repetitive, which I also don't like. If you have some really great random encounter tables, and not just fights and monsters, but different factions, and if you see my dynamic random encounter table video or stream, that not only, or if you use like Perilous Wilds and you have like dangers and discoveries to make it a more interesting experience and a little bit more, I don't want to say quantum, but I think that can add a lot of texture to it. But at the end of the day, they're still kind of just wandering around waiting for random stuff to happen. It can feel very pointless and aimless. So in Forbidden Lands, what we did that was a little bit different is, because we were playing hybrid, so we were playing in person, but one of our players was playing remote. So I had access to, we used Foundry VTT, and I've shown this before on the stream, where the group would they saw the entire map, but including the terrain, but what it did not have was icons, right? It didn't have any indication of where the towns were, or where the dungeons were, or where the castles or the strongholds were. They could see the terrain, but they couldn't see the points of interest. So it made it a little bit more interesting, because they could look at the map and sort of reason or rationale. And I'm actually bringing it up right now in Foundry. Hopefully it'll load up. And I'll show it to you all. Okay, so here we go. Come on. Here we go. So this was the map that we used for our in-person Foundry game. And the way that this worked, by the way, was my remote player, Kaz, obviously you can see him here. He was rolling in the chat because, you guys can't see the chat on the right side, but he was playing remotely with his character, which, he had over here, right? So this was Kaz's character. And then, but he could obviously see this map because he was playing through Foundry and making his dice rolls here. But for my players that were in person, I actually had a big TV set up at the end of the table. So, I'm here, it's a rectangular table. I'm at one end with my GM screen, and then at the other end of the table is a TV set up, a big monitor. And then I had this going from my laptop to the monitor. So when I made a change on this map, my players in person could see it, and my player remotely could see it. Anyways, so you can see that, and I use this Foundry thing called World Explorer was the name of this module. And basically, as the players explored the world, right, the black and white sections, right, became filled in. So the hexes that are in color are actually the hexes that they've been to. But what you can see is that in the hexes that they've been to, you can see all of these different adventure sites. Weatherstone, the Hollows, Halvard's Ferry, that was actually their stronghold that they built. Temple of the Serpent, right? This random dungeon that they never went to, but they discovered it while they were flying over it on Griffinback. An unnamed village that they never visited, right? So, here's the village of Freygrove. Here's the village. I can't remember. I didn't put the label on the map. Now there are more of these symbols over here in the unexplored section, but the players didn't see them. But they might surmise. They might say, "Well, look at this lake. I bet you there's some sort of village or town or something on that lake." And then what they could do is, right, like they would start exploring, moving hex by hex by hex. And then they would come to the lake, and sure enough, look at that. There's a castle right there by Lake Clay. So like the details of the lake and the details of the world kind of become available to them, but it's done in a very slow fashion. This worked better than I had previously experienced, but it still was a little bit lacking. That was a very long-winded answer. I'm sorry. Now Dan says, in Hexcrawl, I've heard people say that you should not let players see the map. I'm of two minds of this, Dan, as well. So when we played when we played with Bob, yeah, here we go. So we played one Pathfinder 1 game with Bob. We played Rapana Thuk. And in that, the players never saw the map. There was no hex map. And I didn't give them any sort of instructions. And so their map was very, it was because, like, even if you don't know what 2 miles is, you don't have a GPS. So their map was things like, follow the river for 2 days, and at that point you'll come across the old logging trail. Then take the logging trail into the woods, follow that until you find the old stone fortress, the old ruined stone fortress. From there, travel east as much east as you can, So like their map was more of kind of a point crawl. It kind of became like, and they would sort of roughly, and it was more like notations and jotting things down, rather than a defined map. And so, and how accurate it actually was somewhat debatable. So Nober says, overworld travel is so tough to make interesting. I'm at a point where I just give the players a map for the vibes, and so they get a visual of where they can go. I don't think you'd be wrong to do that. I mean, a fantasy world map should, in my opinion, there's 2 ways to think of it. One of it is as a game board, right? A place where the players become, it's a game space. And just like a battle map or just like a dungeon, it's a play space. The other way to think of it is something to get your players interested and get your players excited about the world, even if maybe their player characters don't necessarily know what something is. But like, I mean, let's say, for example, in our example here, let's say that the players, maybe this was our starting world, right? And the players are starting down here, down by this lake. But you give them the whole map, and when they look up here in the Briarwood Hills, and they see, let's find something here. Dwarven icon. All right. So they see this, they see this ancient, dwarven fortress, atop this hill, and it's kind of like, oh, cool. Like, what is that? Especially if you give it like a little title, like, I don't know what you would call it, but the Bob Dungeon, or something, like something totally recent. Can I reset this easily? That'd be cool if I could. No, it doesn't look like I can easily. Maybe I can. I just don't know where it is. But anyways, the idea is that like when the players see this, and they're thinking about, especially if you're in a sandbox style of play. But even, one of the things that I like to do when I use what I call like the modular system of gameplay is, I would start my adventure, or I'd start my players off, right? I don't want to say it's railroady, right? But it's like, okay, you're starting here, on the little seaside town, okay? And, you're the first, the first dungeon is this, I don't know. Do we have dungeons here? What do we got? Orcs, dungeons. What do we got here? Different symbols. Okay, so yeah, so it's like the first dungeon is, in the foothills of the mountain to the north, right? And the players are like, oh, okay, and let's see here, line tool, stroke, size. Let's go, let's make it a little bigger there, I guess. Right, and the players are like, okay, that's the starting adventure, and in this case, it's not part of an adventure path, right? It's just that it's a dungeon. It's maybe it's a canned adventure, right? That has a beginning, middle, and end in a very small package. Again, to highlight, sort of the point of it. Like, I'm just flipping through here, see if I have some random adventures that I could just pull out. Yeah, so like, a good example is the Sunless Citadel, right? And, this adventure is 32 pages long. right? It's 32 pages long, and it has a beginning, middle, and end. You go into the dungeon, you explore it, you fight the kobolds, you fight the goblins, you fight the druid, and then you're done. And that's level 1 of the dungeon, and that's level 2 of the dungeon, and then that's it. And the players might spend 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sessions there. Who knows? Or 4. But the cool part about it is, it's not part of some big, huge thing. And more importantly than that, the fate of the world isn't resting on them. So when they start adventuring, what I liked to do is start dropping them hints about other potential, dungeons. Oh, you've heard of the story of, the crypt of the Witch King, and all this different stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's like, well, I want to go check out this, crypt of the Witch King. That sounds pretty sweet. And it's like, okay, well, you can go ahead and travel there if you want to. But be like, oh, but there isn't a convenient path that gets there because it's a little bit further away, but that means the dangers might be greater, but the treasure might be greater, and so on and so forth. And so what you end up doing is you sort of build your player's interest with which is why they were called hooks. These adventures and these dungeons had hooks, because the idea was that as a GM, you were casting not just one line, right? But you were casting many lines, and each one had a different hook. And the players might want to go to one dungeon, they might want to go to another dungeon, they might want to go to another ruin, or maybe you tell them about legends that somewhere in the Briarwood Hills there is said to be an ancient or a hidden elven redoubt, right, where the elves of Gondolin still make weapons and armor of potent elven magic, right, out of the west, and you're like, oh, that sounds cool, we should go do that. You just give the players these hooks and then let them choose which ones they bite onto. And then they stay, on that as long as they want to. And then in theory, while they're exploring that hook and engaged with that adventure or engaged with that, more hooks will sort of radiate from that. And so, the players always have a variety of options that will, in theory, take them around the world or around the region and get them to sort of explore and stuff like that. Yeah. Hexcrawl is an exercise of tedium, at least to me, since I like quest lines and everything that feels like wasted time. Yes, overland hex crawling is stupid in anything that isn't, a sandbox type exploration game, in my personal opinion, because what you're doing is you're making it a barrier to the thing that the players want to do, right? You're making it a hurdle that from the thing that the players want to do. And so what that means is they are going to resent it. And, they're going to say, yeah, we were really excited to, figure out more about what's going on with the priest or whatever. But, we have to go through this, stupid hex crawl first. So it can be very, disappointing to them. And I don't blame them for feeling that way. All right. Daryl says, I despise the subscription-based model for business. If I buy it, I actually want to own it. Daryl, I completely agree with you, but I also, like most of us in this society, in some cases have very little recourse if I want to use these things. I will say this. Subscription-based models that actually provide constant and continual updates and work and, make it feel like you're not just giving them their money and they're taking it and running. Those don't make me feel as bad. Everyone lambasts Adobe for their subscription model, and they are right to. I will say, though, Adobe puts in a lot of R&D into their products. They come out with new stuff all the time, so I at least appreciate that, I'm back from dinner. Is that tool you use for Forbidden Lands the Foundry VTT? Will, yes, that was the Foundry VTT. So this is the Forbidden Lands Premium module, which is like $15 or $20 or something from Foundry, which included the map for the blood. What's it called? I can't even remember what the name of the first campaign is. The Ravenlands world or region. and a couple mods. And again, I think this art style is gorgeous. One time I put an active volcano in the distance and it started smoking and then erupting over the course of a few weeks. A really good anchor for the party's location, a reminder of time passing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I do. Now, Spendin, I love collaborative world building. In fact, I love it so much. I've done streams about it, and we've done several of our campaigns that have used collaborative world building. And you are absolutely correct that it... sorry, I ran over my cord here. You are absolutely correct that it definitely improves buy-in. But what it does do is it removes some of the, some of the discovery element, right? If Smith or Bob was the one who put this, put this here, and they know what it is, it's not quite the same level of discovery as when you check it out. Not saying that that's a bad thing, just saying that it is a thing. And in some cases, it's a pros and cons. There's no right answer or wrong answer there for sure. Kane says, I was hesitant, but it has been improved every single year without fail. I have no regrets. Yeah, so props to everybody who's been using this for a while, and I've definitely invested in it. But it seems like it's pretty cool for me. What's up, Loke? Good to see you. Locanor recently rejoined the Knights of Last Call Patreon. Welcome back, Locanor. Glad to see you healthy and on the mend. All right, so we were continuing to explore here. So I jumped ahead because I did go to the line tool, which is somehow in beta. Apparently, this is not a common thing. Select a stroke for a textured path. Oh, okay. So this is more for like... we've got dotted lines, solid lines... dashed lines. Ooh, I like dashed lines. Curious if you were using your map and you were drawing paths, would you prefer dotted lines or would you prefer dashed lines, or would you prefer just click off, I guess, and change it? Dotted lines. What are we dotted lines people? Are we dash? Are we always dashed? Yeah, dash looks pretty good. Dots are lame. Okay. Oh, okay. Stroke size changes how dense the points are. Okay. Yes, I don't like it too. It's got to be a little bit more spread out like that. Maybe something like that looks pretty good, I think. I wonder what if I were to redo the dashes. Reset to default. Okay, so that's the default. You make very big dashes. That looks cool. I mean, I guess it depends on your map scale and what you're trying to do. But, we got dashes. We've got dots are lame. We've got dashes, but Christian says dotted. Ooh, dotted for roads, dashes for, I don't know, borders maybe. Okay. So pretty basic here. Show guides. Like a pen tool? No. Let's see if there's anything else we can use here. Non-destructively masks out any object beneath the stroke as if they were erased. Oh, okay. So that's cool. So like if I don't include that, this is for the clipping mask. Select a stroke for the thing. Select a color for the path. And we got different stamps. Apparently there's none in the parchment world. But if we go... Oh, goodness. Oh, this is the battle map. So these are all the different things that you can like draw with a texture of this for a line, which is kind of cool. Not something I would really use here. I would use more of a color. We can change the color if we want. Although I think white's pretty common. Although like maybe like a brown. Like maybe if we did like an overlay, kind of sink into it a little bit. Show the guide. Looks a little bit too poopy. Something like that, maybe. And then, but then the other thing was saying, so like if I took a line and I drew it over our hills, right, we can see that our hills are there. But if I do this, interesting. So you can see how it's like masking out it's changing where it's like a way to like overwrite the things. Yeah, so like let me see if I get this right. So like I don't know if this is the best way to do that, but like if I wanted to like make a mountain name, I could change this. Does it go any bigger than that? No. It's like a clipping mask. Interesting. I'm not really sure how or when or why I would use that, but it is a thing. I like the pale solid color lines for roads. Yeah, same as the background, but much paler. Yeah, I think those do stand out a bit. Thanks, Mendan.
$5. Sending a tip to say happy holidays to everyone. Love your work, Derek.
Cheers. Well, thank you, and happy holidays to you and yours as well. I hope you have a great holiday, and thank you so much for supporting. And I love to have you hanging out with us. The mountain range is apparently the place to go, Booth. But thank you, Smendon. I was eviscerated by my Pulp Cthulhu group for having their Indiana Jones travel map use solid lines instead of dash. That is horrendous. You got to use red dash lines for that. Yeah, so Lokinar, I was telling you at the beginning of the stream that I had bought campaign cartographers years ago when it was so CAD-like, and I was actually talking about how I bounced off of it because it was very difficult to use. And I ended up using Hexographer and Dungeonographer for a long time, which, I don't remember who makes those. I think Inkscape makes them. Inkwell Games. I think they still make them, but they makes like a very old school looking map. And I never got into the Dungeon Draft, Wonder Draft stuff. All right. Shape tool, if we want to create shapes. Okay. Okay, so this is just like creating. These aren't really stamps, or this is more just like generic drawing tools, which I care less about. So we can make like if I wanted to make a square, if I'm right, this should make like oh goodness. Let me change the scale. Yeah, see, there we go. Look, boom. Again, not very good for the map that we're using. But if we, just pick a picket fence, nice rug, hay roof, we pick the picket fence and boom, there we go. Now we have a picket fence. We can make a circular picket fence. Oh, look at that. Oh, neat. It uses object combining. Yeah, look, it's in mode add. Very cool. It's Mickey Mouse. Cool. And we should be able to hold Alt. No, maybe subtract. So if we go to subtract, boop, it'll take that out. Very neat. Again, not something I would probably use for a map like this, but I mean for making like a battle map, I could totally see you doing that, or maybe like a castle map or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. All right. Well, I'm glad you got to join us for a little bit. And again, VOD will always be there, buddy. Thank you so much for the support, and again, have a great holiday. Does Inkarnate have a randomize button? I don't think we've gotten there yet. River's got to be double lines with a tiny little U-shaped bridge over it. Let's so I'm very particular about rivers Because like you could use this line tool, right, and go to color, and you could pick like a, you know, a very, I guess, pale blue kind of color. You know, let's make it a little bit more saturated than that. And I guess you could kind of have something like that, and we'll make it a soft light, kind of make it blend in, I guess, a little bit more, maybe hard light. But the problem I have with that is that it doesn't really seem to flow well into the thing. I wonder what we could do if we went back to the mask tool. Let's make it very not rough, because it is a river. And let's make it very small. Let's go 4. And we want to subtract. Let's make it smaller than that. I don't know that I love that either. I was kind of hoping it would be smoother than that, but it doesn't let me go beyond that. Oh, you know what? It's because I was on this jagged thing. Let me try this again. Okay, let me go to this circle. Oh, okay, now we can have a very small brush. Okay, that's a little better. Still doesn't look great, but mostly because of this stroke. And the stroke, I think, applies for the entire, you know, the entire map. But if I'm right, this is a mask. So we should be able to like add to it, right? By like making it get like wider. This is where I wish I had my tablet. Like as it gets, right, like closer to the sea, right, like it starts building up. Why is that not doing that? I don't know what that is. Oh, those are the ripples. All right, there we go. You like the other river more? Yeah, I mean we're just experimenting. We're just experimenting. Yeah, let's see how much this will let us undo. That's pretty good. It's letting us undo a lot. All right. Let's get rid of our silly roads here. All right, so rivers I gotta play around with here, but okay, we have the path tool. Okay, so this is new. Path tool. So this is different than the line tool, the path tool. So the mode can be in segments, and we can add points with a left click, and we can finish with a right click. Okay, the style can be solid, dotted, or dashed. We can control the width. We kind of get a cool preview right there. We can control the opacity. It can be very 1 means full opacity, 0.8, and then what layer it's on, and then also the color. So let's take a look at this. So this is segments. So we're going to add a point here. Add a point there, add a point there, add a point there, add a point there, add a point there. And then right click to finish. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then what does the free draw look like? Does it give us Bezier curves? No, it just lets us draw. I'm not really quite sure how that's different than the line, but maybe it is. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't hate that path. I think it looks kind of cool. All right, chat. Give me your suggestions. We need a name for our little village down here on the lake. We need a name for our village. Now I want to see if there's a way we can reset this. I wish there was. Brightport? I like Brightport. Although it's not much of a port, because it is technically it's on a lake. Although I'm sure we could connect this to the sea. You know what? I like Brightport so much. We're actually going to reshape the entirety of the world so that Brightport works out better for us. All right, so we're going to subtract. And we're going to increase our brush size to 20. There we go. Brightport it is. All right, let's go in here. We got Brightport. And we can make this a little bit, maybe we'll use a different language things for that. I like that one. And then let's change down the size a little bit. And maybe use hard light. Maybe we won't use hard light. Maybe we'll use normal. There we go. I don't hate it. Again, we're just messing around here. All right, Brightport below the Briarwood Hills on the something Gulf, you know, on the Serpent's Gulf. All right. Makes the cove look a little bit like a laughing giant, which would be a fun name for a cove. The Giant's Cove. Trying to see how that looks like a laughing giant. Do you see a laughing giant, chat? Actually, I want to tighten this up a little bit. Let's see what spacing. Here we go. Lower the spacing. Boom. There we go. Cut. A little bit. Nose is in the right. Sure, it curves upward, but I ain't judging. Okay. I still don't see it. I really don't see it. Maybe I have to be upside down in Australia, right? Everything's upside down for you guys. All right, so let me save this again. That doesn't take too long. Note tool to add hidden notes. Okay, so this is just notes for you. Write lore, DM's notes, or something else. Okay, so you can actually turn this into a little bit of like a campaign journal. That's kind of cool. And again, apparently these won't be exported or something. You know, it's just for you. I like that. That's pretty cool. All right, we can show the grid. If we want to put on an isometric grid, square grid, good old hexes, vertical hexes, horizontal hexes, change the number of rows, change the number of columns, change the width of the hexes, very thick hexes indeed, change the relative opacity of the hexes. Um, so what's happening with your guys' home games in the new year? Still to be determined. You know, there have been several attempts to have a conversation about what people want to play. I think people are very, I don't know. I think there's a little bit of hesitation. I think that there's a lot of people who kind of just want to play some form of D&D, whether that's 3rd edition or 5th edition, and just kind of get back to just, you know, dwarven fighter, elven monk, you know, halfling cleric, right? Half orc, something. And I understand that, you know. So, you know, and I think more than ever, especially with how hectic and chaotic everybody's lives have become, you know, the Friday game is really not about the game. It's not about the system, you know. It's about the just the exploring the socialization aspect, and we all kind of want something super simple and super easy and stuff like that. So I don't know, you know, and I know Bob has mentioned 5e, but he had the caveat that he's like, but I you know, because Bob's played 5e, he added the caveat that he wanted it to be, you know, DTXified, whatever that means, you know, in the sense of how I changed it and, you know, did some more old school stuff for that. But I think what it really comes down to is, and I kind of was mentioning this on the Discord the other day, which is that my group has a tendency to kind of either like make a D20, you know, make a D&D campaign, and it's kind of minimal story, minimal character growth, very little role playing, and it's really just about, you know, exploring dark places, killing monsters, taking their treasure, right? And everybody enjoys that for a while, but it starts to feel boring and repetitive for us around level 5, you know, no matter what we're playing, Pathfinder 2, D&D, whatever. Around level 5, everybody kind of gets over that. And so then we end up, you know, let's go and let's play Legend of the Five Rings. Let's go play Scum and Villainy. Let's go play, you know, something where there's a more focus on character and story, which is great. And those games don't usually have levels, but after about, you know, 8 to 10 sessions, everybody's like, man, I just want to, you know, have a magical battle axe. Man, I just wish we had like a cool combat with minis and a grid, and I was killing goblins, and I was, you know, and maybe a troll, and I was taking his treasure. So it's like we flip back and forth. And what we have tried to do in the past is sometimes combine those and merge those. And for me personally, that has never really particularly worked out well. And I know that there's a large segment of people out there who basically play their Fantasy 20 games just like that, where it's almost like it's two separate games, where it's like they're like, oh yeah, we love, you know, character growth and stories and story arcs and plot line through, you know, plot through points and you know, really role playing character. And then, you know, combat happens and everybody just puts that shit aside and we just focus on the minis and we focus on just, you know, hardcore battle mode action fighter scene. And that just must, maybe that's something, maybe that's a failing in me as a game master, or maybe it's just something that my group has never been particularly good at. But we are not very good at changing gears like that. In fact, one of the complaints that Smith had about Legend of the Five Rings was that Legend of the Five Rings has a conflict system that is kind of like a, you know, traditional D20 based, you know, round based initiative, with, you know, you roll initiative and you take a turn, you take a turn, you take a turn, cyclical. And he was like, it felt like we were humming along in fifth gear, and then it was just like, you know, downshift to first gear. It was just such a sudden jerk because it felt so disconcerting to go from this very highly narrative kind of flimsy, flammy kind of like we're, you know, making stuff up, and then suddenly, boom, we're in a combat. And suddenly there's so many rules, and suddenly we're, you know, worried about position and, you know, what techniques and feats and samurai powers did you take? And I get that. I mean, it's tough. I'm just curious in chat. Again, I don't even know how many people are here. Yeah, we got 50 people. Does seeing a map, because I had it on for a while just randomly, does seeing the map without the hex grid feel weird after we've had a hex grid up, because we're so used to seeing maps like this, right, from D&D with a hex grid on them. And I'm just curious how people feel. Like, do you prefer it without the hex grid? Do you think it looks more natural? Looks naked. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Doesn't it look naked? That's kind of what I thought. When I turned it off, I was like, oh, this looks incomplete. Loke, I thought the same thing. That's pretty funny. Mark likes I like the grid. Oh, Mark wants the grid. Okay. Which grid, Mark? The isometric grid or the grid? Whereas the moment the hex grid appeared, I suddenly felt tired. That's pretty funny. I only use the grid for scale when making maps. But again, so this matters more for no, okay, you meant no, I like no grid. Okay, sorry, you meant no grid. Okay, you like it without a grid. Cool. Oh, John. Oh man, John, do I have those somewhere? Man, where would those be? John, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was the clear the transparency. It had a full hex grid, but it had the diagonal going across it. Yeah, that was awesome. I know, John. That was from the 2nd edition Forgotten Realms campaign setting. It was in the gray box too. Okay, I didn't have the gray box. I had like the beige box, which was from like 2nd edition. Yeah, that was awesome. Now I'm like, oh man, where might that be? But I don't want to like leave and go look at it. You still use them now? That's awesome. Sing, what do you mean by you use them only to draw rivers? I'm curious what you mean by that. Give me a distance key and no grid. So I'm actually, okay, so again, by the way, we're almost through all the tools, by the way. We were just on the grid tool. But I do want to highlight something here. Let me see if I can find it. So in in Torchbearer, there is a 3rd book that they released called the Lore Master's Manual. And the Lore Master's Manual is sort of like a Unearthed Arcana expansion, right? It just has variant rules and new stuff, okay? And one of the things that they introduced in this was this idea of the expedition, the journey. And in Torchbearer, the rules in the Dungeoneer's Handbook, which is the default book, to cover distance between town and adventure, one would make a single Pathfinder test or perhaps consult a route on a map and arrive with no test at all. Those rules are simple, but not entirely satisfying when representing more arduous endeavors. So in this system, it basically breaks up the trip into a series of like point crawls. And what you do is you actually count up the number of like landmarks that you pass, and that determines like the sort of the difficulty of the journey. And then what you have to do is you have to pay the toll of the journey. So it basically changes the journey from being like a hex by hex, day by day thing, and it just turns it into a very short little, not even a skill challenge, because I don't even think you roll dice. It's really just a way of saying like, hey, getting someplace far away when you don't know where it is tends to eat up more of your resources to get there, or you'll arrive in a much worse state. And so part of the thing that I've been thinking about is like, I don't even really care about the distance scale, like for me, it's more interesting to think about it like in terms of more like a point crawl, right? Where it's like you're moving from, from node to node. I mean, again, I'm not literally doing this, but they do have pen tools. Look at that. Look at that. That's very cool. You got your Bezier handles. Is there like a point select tool? Oh, yes, there is. Oh, let's look at a node. What is it? Portals. Add or edit portals in the path. Interesting. So anyways, what I was saying was free draw, shape, circle. Yeah, I mean, kinda. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for there. Yeah, like, path. I don't remember where that was. How do I change the stroke? Maybe I'm on the wrong thing. Can I lock this? Oh, yeah, cool. I'm subtracting. In my Torchbearer game, I ran journeys as a conflict, using Pathfinder as the main skills. I mean, I could understand that. I mean, I could see the appeal of that to a certain extent, but I don't know that I want to. Right? I mean, the game, Luke. Not to put a point of it, but this is like I was talking about earlier. Like the point of Torchbearer, right, is to explore dark places with your torches. And there's a part of me that would kind of like would want to get to that ASAP. All right, so now we get to the filter tool, which is this little magic wand. And by the way, I'm going to skip ahead because I just over-moused it. But some people have been asking, is there a random... Let's save our map here. So the last thing here on the map seems to say generate. So we'll do filters last. Generate. Clear all stamps. Fill layers with default textures. Percent ocean. Generate world. So let's go with 20% ocean and generate. So there you go. It did not get rid of our text, but it looks like you can just randomly generate different worlds. What happens if I uncheck that? 88% ocean. Little islands. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it doesn't. It's pretty simple. It doesn't like fill in terrain or anything like that, which is okay with me. But if you just want some random land masses to build a campaign around, it's kind of an interesting shape. This big gulf, that the nations or the worlds are built around. A lot of stuff going on here. And you can just change how much ocean you want. 99% ocean. There you go. Very exciting map. I wonder if it'll also do terrain, etc. I don't know. My guess is no. I feel like that would be very hard to do. I'm looking forward to AI tools that just do all of it. I mean, yeah, that would be a pretty cool, Vin, listen, if you want to go into business with me, buddy, that would be a pretty cool tool, that would basically use these kind of, stamps and assets. And then not only you could also do things like, give it a description. Like, I want there to be a big desert and I want to have at least one major mountain range. But it could also do, incorporate principles of like geographical, right, design, right? Like, have your mountains and then, on the one side of the mountains, maybe closer to the ocean, you have like forests, because that's where the moisture comes in. It gets trapped and creates like a temperate rainforest. And then the other side of the mountains, you have a rain shadow effect, and that's where you have some dry, some dry steppe or a desert type land, And so and maybe there's like even a slider that you could control, like how realistic should the terrain and the geography be versus, it's fantasy, go crazy, Yeah, I mean, I think that, that sounds awesome. I mean, that sounds amazing. I mean, absolutely. Yeah, coming soon to D&D Beyond. They'll be doing that soon, right? Now that we've talked about it. I mean, that'd be cool. It's one of those tools, though, but like, how often are you really going to use that tool, Dundalus says, Dwarf Fortress does this. Yeah, but isn't Dwarf Fortress just ASCII art? Although if you're going to do that, right, you should use, what is it, ProcGen Wadabu? Right? There we go. Done. Obviously you can't, I mean, you can kind of edit these a little bit, but not like a ton, but, Google Gemini makes maps. I don't see anything standing out to me instantaneously. Oh, you're saying Google Gemini will make a map. I got it. Okay. And this is pretty, this is pretty cool. But it is kind of like, there's limited use here. Although I do know that from ProcGen, if we go to the city, right, you can create a medieval, and I know this will let you move stuff around. Like, so, okay, like I'm going to zoom. I don't know if this will work. No, it won't. Like this citadel here, I think I can warp it. Yeah, so like I can take this and push this out and like make the citadel bigger, and it'll like shift the the city around it. It's not like perfect, but it's pretty good. Like if we want the dock district to be bigger, right, we can like bring the docks out. So, again, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it does give you some pretty cool, little tools to play with. And this is obviously, AI generated. And then also you can do like a 3D, discard. You can do like a 3D walkthrough here. I'm trying to remember how you do that. Yeah, so you can get, like, when you generate it, you can give it a couple different, prompts. And I thought there was a way to look at it like a 3D model. You can change some of the icons and stuff like that. This site's really cool if you haven't used it already. Pretty good stuff. Big Leaf, population 190. Hello, Big Leaf. This doesn't have as many fun options, but Maplewell. Very quaint. All right, anyways. So yeah, so there is this generate tool, but it does not generate terrain. Okay. Let us how do we return to your maps? Do not save. Okay. Okay, I loaded it up pretty quickly. All right, so the last thing I wanted to look at was filters. Okay. Oh, okay, so these are like oh, what are they called in Photoshop? They're kind of like LUTs. So we can put a color filter on. We can add parchment, saturation, sharpness. We can make it look more faded. And those look like those are just default ones. We can change that. Ooh, there's a sepia tone. We want to make it. Oh, we can make it black and white, or grayscale, black and white. That's pretty cool. If you just want a black and white map, that's pretty cool. So this is like a color filter. We can make it look wintry. Red sky, that looks kind of cool. Night. Oh, and that's nice. Looks like it's at night. Parchment. I think kind of what we had anyways. Cold and warm. That looks cool. Sepia tone. Faded. Saturation. Make it pop a little bit more. Clarity. Sharpen it up. So we can add a bunch of these filters. We can actually stack these. That's pretty cool. And then, if I'm right, show filters. And then we should be able to like delete this or whatever. And we can just keep adding these new ones. So let's take a look here. Dark and tattered 3/4 landscape. Oh, look at that. That's cool. It kind of makes it look around the edges, you know? That's neat. Like we could, let's delete this here. Let's delete this one. Let's add, tattered. Here we go. That's pretty cool. Makes it look like it's like a map. That's pretty fun. I actually like that a lot. That's like very cool. Like makes it look very like, you know. That's pretty cool. What else we got? We got color adjustment, so we can increase the contrast, make it more contrasty, less contrasty. Up the brightness, dim it. Up the saturation, dim it. Change the hues. How much opacity we want. So these are very, yeah, these are pretty great. And again, these are just like filters, right? We can just apply them as we want to. And then miscellaneous. Oh, we have a tilt shift filter. That's funny. If you don't know what tilt shift photography is, it's pretty crazy. Tilt shift photography. It makes real life stuff look like it's in minis. Like this image here. Let me go tools. Like this image here is actually not like a miniature image. It's actually like a real city shot. You know, it looks really funny when it's like a video. But yeah, it's this really weird photography lens that lets you actually change the lens from being perpendicular to your image to being different angles of it. It's a really weird looking lens. I never owned one. Yeah, see, that's a tilt shift lens. It changes the focal plane across the sensor. Anyways, you can create this really weird effect that you see there. There we go. All right, very cool. And what's cool too is like, you know, again, you can just turn off those, continue to work on it, and then when you're done, you know, bring it back. I don't know. I think this is pretty cool. I mean, you know, especially if they've been adding stuff. I mean, I think that's really exciting. I mean, obviously, like I get it. Like nobody wants to, you know. What do we got? We got this one. We got this one. We got this one. All right. Here we go. It is Vinland. The land of the Vins. You know what? I'm not gonna lie. You know, obviously most of this map is empty. I've made worse maps, you know? I mean, you know, I've played around with it. I mean, I don't know. I think it's pretty fun. Oh, that's cool, Kane. You haven't used it in 6 months, and you've seen at least 2 features that are new to me. Yeah, I mean, like, these 2 features here are in beta. And I have to say that one of the main complaints that I've had is when I've used tools like this in the past is that they'll have all the stamps, you know, they'll have all like the cool little fantasy art, but it won't have the normal Photoshop photo editing, image editing type stuff that I want and I need. Things like blend mode and things like filters and changing hues and saturations and luminances and you know, all that type of stuff. And this seems to have that. So that's what makes it very easy for me to use. We need a dark forest. Okay. A saga of Vinland. Is that, if that is Vinland, there needs to be a Booth Bay. Oh, hell yeah, there does need to be a Booth Bay. I mean, obviously this is Booth Bay, right? Let's make it a little bit wider. We can make Booth Bay a little bit bigger. Maybe Booth Bay. There's actually this massive thing here. All right, let's go text. I love it. Let's down the size a little bit. Change the rotation. And let's drop that into. There we go. There we go. Booth Bay. That's pretty sweet. I think it looks good there, you know. Bright port on the shores of Booth Bay, in the land of in the land of the Vins. I think Vinland is a thing. I think it's like a real life Nordic thing, but for our world purposes, it's, you know, Vin. Yeah, so let's try to make a dark forest here. So we got to go to forest. Oops. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing right or doing wrong here. Mountains. Oh, okay. There, it doesn't use the word forest. It uses the word trees. All right. I guess we could go with, we have willow trees, regular trees. Go with regular trees here. You've got different stamps here, so. All right, we need a name for this dark forest. Let's get a Helen here. Oh, goodness. I changed my thing there. Parchment. Mountains, hills. There we go. Small hills. The Oak Barrens. I like that one. The Dreadwoods. The Spider Woods. John likes the Spider Woods. The Ebon Woods, as generic as possible. Wojo says, I got Dungeon Draft and Dungeon Alchemy a while back, and they're a lot of fun for a one-off map here and there, but my god, I'd rather find a pre-made or use the online battle map makers. So the way I feel about the battle map makers is that just seems like a lot of time and a lot of investment. Like, you know, if I ended up spending the better part of an entire evening, right, making a cool world map, I would be okay with that, right? Because, like, I feel like I'm going to get potentially, you know, months potentially of play out of this area. Whereas making a battle mat, you're going to use it once, you know? So I find that to be very low, you know, high squeeze, low juice, right? All right. So what I want to see here is there a good way? Like if I create the text, right, I want it to be, can I like delete? Get a erase tool. Because what I'm wondering is if can I like clear out a space for this you know, like I don't know, that's what I wonder if there's like a way that I can like easily come in here and like make space for the name without doing what I'm doing right here. Maybe I should have put the name first, actually, now that I think about it. All right, we'll do this. Okay, let's go text. All right, we got the Spider Woods. It's a spider. Okay. Change up the spacing to make it a little tighter. Let's change down the font to make it a little bit smaller. And let's change the rotation. Actually, I kind of like maybe something like that. And we can kind of work around it then. Okay, I like that. So, delete. Just deleting our entire woods here. It's okay. All right, that's fine. And then go back to our texture, to our trees.
Zymal tip $10. Thank you for the consistently great content. Have a happy holiday, Derek. Catch you on the VOD.
Zymal, thank you so much for that. I appreciate the support. Great to see you in here. And thank you for liking, and thank you for showing your support for the channel, and thank you for the very nice statement. You know, I of course did some Pathfinder 2 videos these last couple of weeks, so that means that the hate that I've been getting on the internet is higher than usual, because everybody knows that the quickest way to get a lot of angry people is to make a Pathfinder 2 video. So all right. But thank you, Zymal. That's very nice of you. I appreciate it. Appreciate you. Something like that. Yes, definitely guilty of being fucking know-it-alls. Can I lock this? Yeah, sweet. Now we can move this stuff. Anyways, what were the biggest tier list controversies? Well, the biggest controversy was that we didn't rate everything A tier or an S tier, which was mostly because there was a bunch of people who didn't pay attention to, number one, how any sort of grouping should naturally work, right? Which is that the average should be somewhere around a B or a C. So people didn't pay attention to that. And then even if that was the case, they would still be very like, oh, everything should be fantastic and great. People were upset at what we said about the Ranger at low level, mid level, high level. Obviously they mostly had problems with, actually, I would say the biggest controversy was that we thought, and again, they don't understand that we were saying that, in fact, in some ways I would say that they didn't fully appreciate it because we were saying they were actually so good that they're problematic. But people were like, the fighter's not even that good, and I'd rather be an investigator than a rogue. So there were a lot of people who were really questioning the fact that we were saying that the fighter and the rogue were so good. When in fact I was saying, I was actually like, no, you don't even understand. I was saying they're so good, they're bad. They're bad because they're problematic. If you read the rules on dual classing in the GMG, it even says maybe don't let people dual class as fighter because that would be too powerful. So even even when you're just like, hey, if you can have two classes at once, but maybe not two classes, maybe not be a fighter as well, because that's just going to create problems for everybody. All right. The campaign is starting. You are based out of, and there's this random line of trees off here to the right that no one ever did anything with. Okay. Okay, can I do that? Can I hold control? Ooh, I can. Nice. Okay. Our poll in chat. The campaign is starting. Where do you venture? So we've got, hold on a sec, we need another title here. We need to pick a new font. Here we go. The Crypt of the Damned. All right. Change the rotation up a little bit. Maybe not so much of a curve. Curve 0 there. And 0 rotation. Let's make that. All right. So the campaign is starting, and you are in the small town of Brightport. Now, your GM has laid out several things before you. There is, of course, the legendary Crypt of the Damned, only a short journey from Brightport at the edges of the hereto unnamed mountain range. However, legends speak of the vast treasure and ancient elven ruins that lie within the Spider Woods. But of course, legends also tell of the force of drow, spider, and driders, which still reside in those woods. But there's also the Briarwood Hills, far to the north, where it is said ancient dwarven fortresses still stand atop ancient mountain and hillsides. Where do you go? Poll and chat. The jackal stare. I like it. What level are we? Great question. We'll say that, like, you know, you're level 3, right? Like, you did an initial the first adventure was like in the sewers of Brightport, and you know there was some were-rat, you know, bandit king or something like that. So you've got a couple levels under your belt, you know, a little bit of gold, a little bit of, you know, some potions, maybe a +1 sword or whatever like that, you know. So you've got some different, you have a little bit of strength in you, but not a lot. You know, the spellcasters have their second rank spells, you know. So people are voting. GM Scott just got. Oh, okay. Then crypt. My vote was assuming level 1. Oh, okay. No. Nothing interesting happens in the crypts, you know. Well, you know, I should also point out, by the way, that as we kind of make this vote, that this is something that I also really like about sandbox games, because as long as you're very consistent tonally with the way the world is working, you're telling your group, look, if you go to the Crypt of the Damned, yeah, you're probably going to be fighting undead, and depending on what edition of the game you're playing, where that sort of stuff matters, you know, you might have to deal with level loss and, you know, all the scary things that happen with undead. But if your group's like, well, we have a cleric and a paladin, we should definitely go to the Crypt of the Damned, because we've got great classes against that. Whereas the spider woods might have all sorts of insects and different, you know, animals and other, you know, twisty, creepy crawlies, and you know, if your group has a ranger and a druid, then maybe that's a better spot for your group, right? And then lastly, if you know, maybe your group has more of like a classic dungeon, you know, delving vibe, maybe you've got rogues who are really good at finding and removing traps, then maybe you go up into the Briarwood Hills and you explore those, you know, those ancient dwarven keeps and fortresses. So I like the idea that, like, you give the group these different options, and that some things become compelling to them and some things become, you know, less compelling to them. And I think that's actually really exciting. I think that's really cool. All right, we're gonna end the poll here. It was very close. Crypt of the Damned won with 39% or 38%. Briarwood Hills 33%. Spider Woods 27%. So everything was around a third. So you guys were pretty split here. So, now somebody was mentioning this before. So here, so like this is where things get interesting. So right, so here, like I'm gonna take this map and I'm gonna export it as an image, as a JPEG, right? Yeah. Save and export. Okay, it's saving. Now I'm just curious, because this is where we're at. You know, I made the map. Some people were talking about this in chat, but I just really want to, you know, see what this thing can do. So let me save this. Okay. Now, what I want to do here is, sorry about this. So I'm going to load our map into ChatGPT. And I'm going to say, this is a fantasy regional map that I just created. It has several points of interest, cities, towns, dungeons, as well as geographical areas. These are labeled on the map. Please create a brief history and sit rep for each of these regions and areas on the map. All right, let's see how it does. Oh no, it cannot directly view the labels. Damn it. I was hoping it could, like, literally do that for us. Okay. All right. We've got a town on the Booth Bay called Brightport. Nearby is the Crypt of the Damned. The large haunted woods to the east is the Spider Woods. The Jackal's Tear is a large, imposing mountain range that splits the land in two. The Briarwood Hills lie to the east of the mountains, a dry, desolate land full of dwarven ruins. All right, let's see what we got here. All right. Brightport was established as a humble fishing village centuries ago, strategically nestled along the calm waters of Booth Bay. Over time, its natural harbor attracted merchants and adventurers, turning it into a bustling trade hub. The town grew under the protection of its legendary founder, Captain Alden Bright, who is rumored to have struck a pact with a sea spirit to protect the bay from storms and piracy. Sit rep. Today, Brightport remains a prosperous town, though its golden age is fading. Recent years have brought tales of ghostly ships appearing at dusk and strange disappearances of fishermen near the bay. The town's leaders fear that the long-forgotten pact with the sea spirit may have been broken. Despite this, Brightport thrives as a cultural melting pot, with merchants, adventurers, and even outlaws passing through its lively docks. A burgeoning thieves guild is rumored to operate in the shadows, adding an undercurrent of danger to the vibrant trade. So here is the Crypt of the Damned. It was built by a secretive cult worshipping an ancient death god. Long since abandoned, it became the final resting place for criminals and outcasts during Brightport's early days. The Spider Woods. Legends say that demons unleashed a swarm of colossal venomous spiders to claim the woods, but the elves sacrificed themselves to trap the invaders in an endless nightmare. The woods became corrupted, a labyrinth of shadows and twisted vegetation. The Jackal's Tear was named after the sharp, jagged peaks that resemble fangs tearing into the sky. According to legend, the mountains were created when a massive jackal god was slain during the War of the God. Its blood spilled into the earth, giving rise to its deadly peaks. The mountains have become a treacherous barrier dividing the land, with only few passes connecting east to west. And the Briarwood Hills were once a thriving dwarven kingdom known for its rich mines and finely crafted goods. However, centuries ago, the land became dry and desolate after a magical cataclysm. The dwarves abandoned their cities, leaving behind crumbling ruins and forgotten relics of their once great civilization. Over time, the hills earned their name from the hardy, thorny briars that now dominate the landscape. It's never been easier, folks. I'll just say that, okay? Prep is, large language models have changed the game when it comes to prep, for sure. So, and again, that was like, I didn't even try to massage it and change it and, update it and tweak it. I'm pretty, you'd be very impressed what you can create with just a few minutes of work, and again, it's the issue here is you have to be an editor. You have to decide what you want to take, what you want to, what you don't want to take. And it functions in many ways, just like I don't know if I have the book pulled out, but in many ways it functions just like the Tome of Adventure Design or anything like that. So it's just it's an idea generator. Dan says, the problem is when ChatGPT makes it, how much do you retain to bring to the table? Well, that's why I said, you need to make it your own, you need to take what you want, change it. A lot of times what I'll end up doing is something that's completely different from what it suggested, but it gave me the thought process, and it gave me the sort of inspiration to go into a different way. Let's see here. Do you remember the Tome of Adventure Design? Let's see if it remembers it. Okay, great. Can you roll on the 1A table for me? Oh, damn, it doesn't have it. Okay. I had uploaded it before. But with the Tome of Adventure Design, it would come up with these crazy, weird, random things like alchemical sewer of the, cursed pillar. And you're like, what the hell does that even mean, right? It's just random nonsense. But you can start to think about okay, alchemical crypt. And you start thinking about what if it's a place where failed alchemical, researcher, failed alchemical experiments were thrown away or banished, or something. It starts you down this path of creativity, And I think it's, very interesting in that respect. Don't get me wrong. I love sitting around with a Tome of Adventure Design and cracking it open and, rolling on tables as well. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's a great prompt. It also depends juice to squeeze. You know, like if it's just some random town or something on the edge of the map that like no one's ever really going to go to, I'm fine just, you know, having something produce a couple lines of statement about it. And, you know, like if we were to add a new town, let's see here. All right, here we go. We got, so let's add a, what is this here? These are detailed elven icons, human icons. All right, yeah, let's add this. Let's add this, get the scale here, right? So we add a, you know, we add an elven, whatever. We add like an elven, kind of like a, you know, our version of Rivendell, you know, nestled in the edge of the mountains, of the Jackal's Tear, right? So we throw that there. Well, like realistically, like, right, like when are the players going to get there? So like, you know, give me 10 names for a hidden elven retreat fortress, right? You know, sometimes I like them, sometimes I don't. Like, you know, okay, I like Moonshade, you know, that's pretty kind of cool. Or Mistwood, that's pretty good, you know. I don't know that I would go with the Refuge, but Starfall, you know, something like that. So, okay, let's go with Mistwood. Give me 3 interesting facts about Mistwood, and let me know 1 strength, 1 weakness, 1 opportunity, and 1 threat about the settlement of elves hidden at the end of the mountains. You know, and it's just like, I mean, if assuming that, you know, I could take that, put that into a campaign journal, and I'll be like, okay, this is good. This is good enough for me. I don't need, you know, I don't know how much more information I would need about some place that the players may never even visit, you know? And again, you know, one of the rules of dungeon craft, which I've talked about on this channel before, is never create more than you must. And I think there's a you know, especially when you create maps like this, there's an obsession, you know, I mean, again, I love the idea of like draw maps, leave blanks, right? Like maybe when you start off with this map, the other side of the Jackal's Tear is blank, you know, because the players don't know what's over there yet. You don't know what's over there yet. You're drawing maps. You're leaving blanks. And same thing with maybe the islands to the south, you know, or off the coast here. Nothing wrong with drawing map, or, you know, on the other side of the Spiderwoods. And when you give the players the map, you know, maybe you fill in a little bit more of this area here to the west of Wrightport. But you basically say, like, you know, you guys know the general layout of all this stuff. And everyone's heard of the supposed legendary dwarven fortress that is located somewhere in the Briarwood Hills. In which case, this icon becomes less of, it is here on the map, and it becomes more of a symbol for the fact that there is this thing that does exist out there. But other than that, you know, the stuff is vague, and you can leave it until you need it. So I think there's a mistake that people make when they make worlds, or they even make regions, right? This isn't even a world. This is just Vinland, is they feel the need to just detail everything and then somehow contain this encyclopedic knowledge for it. And I just think that that is a mistake. You want me to read out the SWOT? Okay. All right. All right, 3 interesting facts about Mistwood. The living canopy, it is built into the massive ancient trees of the forest with platforms, bridges, and structures grown rather than constructed. The Whispering Well. At the heart of the Mistwood lies a whispering... Can you tell this thing was inspired by World of Warcraft? The Whispering Well is a deep enchanted pool of water that reflects not the present, but fragments of the past and possible futures. And lastly, a forbidden guardian. Deep within the mountains near Mistwood, a slumbering creature of immense power is said to guard the retreat. Stories differ as to whether it is a benevolent spirit bound by ancient elven magic or a terrible beast kept in check by wards. All right. SWOT, strength, strategic seclusion. Mistwood's location, nestled at the end of the mountain range and hidden by dense enchanted forests, makes it incredibly difficult to locate. Combined with magical wards, it is nearly impregnable to physical attacks or discovery. Weakness, resource dependency. While Mistwood is rich in natural beauty and magic, it lacks significant resources like minerals, large-scale agriculture, or trade connections. The settlement relies heavily on foraging, hunting, and carefully cultivated magical gardens, which are vulnerable to disruption. Opportunity. A recently unearthed dwarven ruin deep in the mountains offers an opportunity to recover ancient treasured artifacts and possibly forge alliances with other settlements or adventurers who can aid in Mistwood's prosperity. Lastly, threat. Encroaching corruption. A shadowy force, perhaps tied to the slumbering guardian or the Spiderwoods, has begun to spread through the mountains, twisting the natural magic of the area and drawing dangerous creatures closer to Mistwood's borders. This corruption threatens to expose the retreat to the enemies or drive the elves into open conflict. Dun dun dun. I mean, I could get like 5 months of play out of that. You know, and I absolutely agree. You know, playing RPGs should not feel like work, and the LLMs, whether you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or whatever, finally make it close to easy to prep lore, when I previously wouldn't even bother. You know, like, and also too, remember, you could tell the LLM your lore. You know, if I have a preconceived idea, put it in there. Maybe say add something else to it, or you know, say something else new. And the other thing is, and this is good for me, you know, most of what it gives you is pretty tropey, right? Because it's learning from, you know, all the things that I grew up reading. You know, it's learning from Tolkien. It's learning from, you know, those stories of Robert E. Howard and stuff. So for me, when it gives me these very like tropey things that feel like, oh, that could be right out of a MMO or right out of a fantasy novel, for me, that's a win. Like, there is definitely, don't get me wrong, if you were creating a legitimate world that you were going to sell to somebody, or that you were going to try to turn into a novel, I mean, one could argue that, you know, I'm not going to argue the legality of whether or not this is stealing or not. You know, granted, if I go out and read Tolkien, if I go out and read George R.R. Martin, and then I'm inspired by them, and then I create something very much inspired by them, I mean, it's kind of doing the same thing in that respect. But you're not doing that. This is for your home game with your friends, you know? So you're not hurting anybody, and you're not trying to sell anybody, and you're not trying to sell anybody this kind of, you know, hackneyed, tropey response. And so I think that means that for me, that's actually a win, because, you know, I mean, maybe you can give it a prompt to be like, give me something really wild and crazy and out of left field. But, you know, I find the fact that it kind of gives me these kind of generic fantasy-esque problems and generic fantasy-esque things of an actual positive, because it's very, you know, easy to digest. And I think that's a good thing. Again, too, like I said, if you were trying to create the next fantasy novel and you're trying to do something really remarkable, then don't use this. But if you're just, you know, trying to prep for your home game, for your D&D 5e game or whatever, and you don't want to use Forgotten Realms, instead you want to explore the mystical realm of Vinland, well, then, you know, yeah, you know, use ChatGPT. Like, you know, we got Booth Bay here, right? Okay. So we say, off the coast of what was it called? Brighttown? What do we call it? Brightport. Off the coast of Brightport. Far off the coast of Brightport. In the middle of Booth Bay is an island. What is there? And tell me about it. You know, I'm giving this thing no prompt. I'm just saying, like, come up with something. Oh, it's the island of Wraithmarsh. A place shrouded in fog and mystery. Though it appears from a distance to be little more than a cluster of rocky shores and darkened marshes, it holds deep secrets and dangers that have kept Brightport citizens from fully exploring it. Sailors often avoid the area, calling it cursed due to the eerie lights and strange sounds emanating from the island at night. It contains the Drowned Monastery, cool dungeon, the glowing Glowmere Lights, cool wilderness exploration area, and then in the heart of the marsh is the Weeping Oak. Pretty cool. Here's some adventure hooks. The Missing Crew, the Weeping Oak Secret, the Merc Scale Menace. These sound like the names of Hardy Boy novels, and I'm okay with that. That's totally fine, you know? The Merc Scale Menace. I'm here for it. So there we go. Yeah. Exactly, Kane. No one will ever know. No one will ever care. This is whether how you feel like about anything. Like, now again, is that idea, is this particularly, especially too, like we've had like, the dungeons and the Elven Retreat, and then here you go, boom, now we've got the dark, scary, kind of thing, Gonna be kind of sad if we don't end up playing here. And that's my point. I didn't even know how to use this program, when we started this. And again, is this something that's going to get published on DM's Guild or Drive-Thru RPG? Fuck no. But who gives a shit? This is for you and maybe 4 or 5 other people, Mikey the Goat says, how do you get it to give you these cool prompts? It never gives me cool stuff like this. Mikey, there is an answer, and you're not going to like it. The answer is, Mikey, is I am using ChatGPT 4.0. And in other words, I am using the paid version of ChatGPT. I paid for using it because it's very helpful for me in my job. Like, instead of having to write a huge SQL statement, I can just tell ChatGPT, hey, I need a SQL statement that does this, and, correlated interjoin with this, and it just spits it out for me. And 99% of the time, I almost have to make no changes to it. So I do have the paid version of ChatGPT. So that is why. So when you use ChatGPT, you are using the probably the three model, ChatGPT 3, I think is the free one, and I'm using ChatGPT 4.0. So that is the difference. Now, for me, it makes sense because I use it for my job, and and it's fun to use for other cool fun stuff like RPGs and stuff like that. But that is the answer, unfortunately. Now, that being said, ChatGPT is not the only large language model out there. There's Claude, there's Gemini, and all of them have different free versions, and I think it's worth looking into them. That being said, I personally think it's totally worth the price. So just because of, like you said, the quality of it, Yes, Vin is correct. You can get this stuff on normal ChatGPT, but you have to tell it context. I am making a map for a role-playing game in the vein of Dungeons and Dragons, and one of the main things that ChatGPT 4 does is it remembers. It remembers what you previously told it. It remembers that we're talking about creating a D&D adventure and stuff like that. So, Merry Christmas, Ton. It was great hanging out with you. So, yeah. And then what's really cool too with like ChatGPT, I mean, you could do this with Midjourney too. Wraith Marsh Isle sounds really cool. Now, I don't know why, but I just find myself like talking to it like it's a normal person. Can you produce a landscape piece of digital art that shows what the island might look like as you approach it from the sea? So ChatGPT 4.0 also lets you upload files, and it lets you do art prompts. So again, you can use Midjourney for this as well. Midjourney, I think, is still a little bit better. It gives you more options and the ability to quickly make varieties and changes and stuff like that. But that's probably a little bit overdone. But I mean, when all the worst case, let's see here. No, make it more natural, more trees, and use a softer illustrated style, like something from John Howe. So we'll see what it comes up with. John says, with the free version, you get limited access to ChatGPT 4.0, so I limit my usage to once or twice a day. I usually get a good 2 to 3 prompts in per day, so it's pretty good. Oh, because I used the copy. I used John Howe. Make it something like art that you might find in a fantasy calendar of a popular fantasy epic story. They're trying to keep it, from being too over the top. I don't know what this is going to do with this, actually. This just turned into like ChatGPT. But I mean, these digital tools, right? I mean, like, That's probably a little bit nicer, but anyways, ooh, make it spookier. So again, you might end up going again. Midjourney, I do think is better for this, but yeah, you can also get Stable Diffusion running locally on your machine as well. So again, that's better. You spend a couple of minutes, you get a cool, and again, I think this is really particularly useful for like VTTs, or even if you're not playing in a VT, if you're just playing online, you come up with one piece of art, maybe two pieces of art, and then you can just put it up as a background, or you can put it up as a thing, especially if you're playing like a Theater of the Mind style game. And I was showing this to Damien, and I was like, okay, that's I love the art. Okay, I love the art. Now, give me boxed text of a few sentences that I could describe to the player characters as they arrive on the shores of Wraith Marsh. Focus on what their senses can see, and provide a hint of foreshadowing for some of the threats on the island. So, make it less ChatGPT is $20 a month for the premium. Although there's a new one now too that lets you get unlimited access to O1, which is $200 a month. I haven't paid for that one yet. So here we go. So a lot of times it'll come up with something. It'll be too flowery. It'll be too overwrought. It'll be kind of almost sugary, sickly. Not like syrupy, but like it uses too much language. So I just change it down here. The boat glides through the calm waters of Booth Bay as Wraithmarsh Isle comes into view. The island is shrouded in thick fog, with dark, gnarled trees rising like skeletal fingers from the marshy ground. Dim green and blue lights flicker briefly in the mist before disappearing. The air smells damp and sour, carrying the faint hint of rot. As you approach the shore, the uneasy silence is broken by the distant sound of something low and rhythmic, almost like a chant. Shadows shift among the trees, but it's hard to tell if it's just the fog playing tricks on your eyes. So, again, would you use this? Should you use this if you're submitting something to, for people to pay? No, but for your home game, I mean, if you're bad at creating descriptions, if you struggle with that kind of stuff, ChatGPT. I mean, it's pretty good in that respect. I've been pretty impressed with it. So apparently now I have to use Vinland as the setting of our so yeah, there are a million different ways to do this. There's Copilot. Like I said, there's Google Gemini. Everybody's creating this. There's the major players, there's the smaller players. And I think, like what Vin and I were talking about earlier about somebody's going to start you're going to start seeing more specialized versionings of these large language models. People are going to start creating more interesting stuff. So, I think now does this do everything? Does this fix everything? No, you still have to, be creative, and you still have to put stuff together. It's very hard for it to truly, understand what you were, coming in, but, the Vin was inevitable. But again, I mean, it's your D&D campaign, it's your Pathfinder campaign. It doesn't need to be this work of epic, authorial genius that's going to last throughout the decades and centuries. Let's be honest with ourselves, right? There's a good chance that it's just going to, peter out and die in 6 months. So, or in less than 6 months. So why would we go so overboard, and why would we spend, countless hours for something that, not because our players are dicks, and not because, they're rude or whatever, or they suck. No, it's just because that's what, these things happen, Now, of course, if you want to spend the time, if you truly enjoy it, then by all means, you should do that. But, don't, if this isn't where, I have always said that I like running the game. I like GMing, but I'm not a big fan of prep. Because prep is the reason I like playing role-playing games is because I love interacting with the players and I love seeing them what they can think of and what they, that's one of the reasons I do like collaborative world building. But the sitting down by myself is not necessarily my favorite part of the job. So anything I can do to sort of help that out and speed that along, and I love using random tables and things like ChatGPT because in a lot of ways it's like being able to bounce things off of somebody else. Um, uh, Vinland, the country where I want to be. Pony trekking or camping or just watching TV. Vinland is the country for me. I assume that's supposed to be Green Acres. Right, exactly. I mean, Dan, that's why I do these live streams and I don't do, 10-minute videos. I mean, I did 15 hours, I think, last week of streaming, not including tonight, right? I did a stream on Tuesday. I did a stream I went on to RFC on Wednesday. I did a Zoom call with my patrons on Wednesday. I did a stream on Thursday. And then I did another Zoom call on Saturday. And those were really long ones. I mean, they were, some of those streams were 3 hours, 4 hours long. I mean, I could have made like 10, 15-minute videos, then I would have been set for the next 2 months to publish videos to my channel. But I like the interaction. I like going back and forth. Yeah, I mean, I like ChatGPT. I think ChatGPT is for me kind of like is the best, but it is. Oh, Wojo, it's coming, buddy. It's on my list. I'm working my way down. To be fair, it's it's not a stream. It's not a stream. It's just a song. But I here's the problem, Wojo. I want to do it. I want to do it justice. I want to do it right. So, anyways, I'm liking this program. I mean, I know that there's I'm going to save this real quick. I'm going to make a new map. So I'm going to choose New Fantasy World. So this is our mask for land. Real quick. Of course, we still have the legendary Booth Bay. All right. Let's take a look here. So, obviously you can see here, like the mountains are obviously, different, quality or caliber, I suppose is the way I would describe it, than they were, before, because we were using the parchment. So, I mean, if you want something that looks a little bit more, colorful, you could totally go for this. I mean, this is more than acceptable. And there's even some cooler things here, like we could put, a cave entrance here located deep within, within the rocks. That looks pretty cool, right? Let me shrink it down a little bit. So you think the grassland texture looks awful? Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it, but, and like I said, we learned from filters, like we could even technically come in here, go to add filter, click parchment, and that'll, it'll kind of parchment it up a little bit. So at least it kind of gets rid of some of those colors, even if the texture is still there. That was one thing we didn't play with really. Let me go here. Let me go to brushes. Let's go to texture. And what is this? Is this? This is grass. Okay, so this is supposed to be a grass texture. Let's see what this looks like. Our opacity is max. Yeah, I guess that kind of does it. Oh, there we go. It's not bad. Kind of blend it out. What other textures did they have here? Apparently they only have this. Oh, there we go. These are apparently just for the waves, swamp, cracked ground. Let's see what that looks like. It kind of works. I mean, it's not bad. I mean, it provides a little bit of an interesting texture to it, but yeah. Anyways, but you know, I mean, you can don't save. You know, you can kind of choose whichever style is more, you know, your bag. I mean, I think I tend to like the parchment style a little bit better. I want to see here maybe what this texture brush looks like here. If we go here we go. We got dirt, grass. Put it on the foreground. Max size here. That's kind of nice. Kind of lower the opacity to 77. And we can like switch over and like get more into like the dirt. Let's see what this dirt texture looks like. So it's very subtle. It's very subtle. I don't even know if you can really see that well on the. This this is how you end up spending hours and hours. You're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong. But I mean, but again, the other thing is, yes, yeah, I totally see how you could end up spending hours and hours if you were literally trying to create, you know, the Wheel of Time, you know, map. But I'm not trying to do that. You know, I'm just trying to create a small, you know, regional map. Parchment map needs a. Well, that's we were showing that earlier. You know, like that's why, like I said, we got to go back to the. Let's tone it down a little bit. I heard a dog. And then we have the tattered, you know. So we kind of get we get the cool folds, you know. Maybe there was another one too. Add a new filter. Right, we can burn it. We can't. Okay, we can't. We can tatter it. So we can dark tatter it. That's pretty cool though. Oh, old paper. Well, that doesn't do anything. What the hell? Oh, I gotta blend mode it. Let's go overlay. That looks kind of cool. That looks pretty cool. I kind of like that, actually. Maybe that's just me, but I think that gives it a really cool look. And let's add another one. Let's add the yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is obviously very gimmicky, you know, but I do like that it makes it look like a real map, you know. But yeah, that old paper, wow, that really added a lot of character, didn't it? Let's try it. Let's play around with some of the blend modes. That's overlay. We could also do soft light. Soft light's a little softer. I mean, we can also play with the you can also play around with the opacity of that coverage, right? So you can dial it into however much you want. But I kind of like it pretty distinct. Let's go. Hard light will really pump up the contrast, yeah. But You know, and sometimes it's just messing around. But by the way, just for what it's worth, a lot of times overlay, soft light, and hard light are going to be the ones, you know, that you're going to want to go for. Yeah, I mean, that looks nice. Fuck it. People are like gimmicky. Players are so easy to make happy unless they're jaded old bloodhorse. I agree. And you know what? You know, if this was filled out a little bit more with a little bit more, you know, time and effort, we weren't just learning it. If I got this as a player or I saw this as a map, you know, I'd be like, you know, yeah, this looks pretty fucking sweet. I'm down. Like this is cool. I like it. You know. Let's combine these. There we go. You know, I'd be like, fuck yeah, this is great. Let's go. You know, I'm down. Like, again, it doesn't. You're not trying to be Shakespeare here. You're not trying to be Sean K. Reynolds. You're not trying to be Monty Cook. You're trying to be Ed Greenwood. I'd play the shit out of this. Yeah. Now I feel a certain amount of compelling to Boothby to at least use this in some capacity. This will be the big joke. You know, maybe that's what we'll end up. Maybe we'll create some sort of, because I think the character creation is until the end of like January. So you know, maybe we'll just do like some sort of collab world build for the Torchbearer game group. But yeah, I mean, I think this this looks pretty cool. I'm actually pretty excited about this. Let's go cracked ground. Yes, again, it's very subtle. You can kind of see it coming through a little bit here, but sometimes that's all it takes is a little bit of subtlety, you know, to add some stuff. I mean, what did we say? It was swamp. Yeah, this is swamp. Okay. We got hills icons, trees. Right. This was the Wraith Marsh, right? Island. Let's add. We know there's some sort of temple or something. What do we got here? Bridges, basic. Hills, holidays. Symbols. There we go. Resources, guild, shop, factions, caves. You know, I mean, that works. That works for me. You know, like, let me blend that in there. Yeah. You know. Anyways. So what was it called? I can't remember the name of the stupid island. Wraith Marsh. That's it. Oop, nope, that's not what we wanted to do. Again, it works for me. Delete. Oh, no. Delete. Um, 100%. I'd be super down. Okay, maybe we'll make this a fun little thing over the next couple of weeks here with the patrons. How did Bob end up liking his Torchbearer exposure so far? I haven't caught up on that stream. I think Bob is cautiously interested. I do think he thinks that. I don't think he fully like when I mentioned that the game is trying to do like a triangular type approach, right, where you're trying to go out and get treasure because you need it, because you're broke. You actually need money in this game. You're also trying to survive, pretty standard, but you're also trying to play to your character's beliefs, instincts, and goals. And I think that he's kind of like he kept saying, I think I'm going to need to see it in play to really get it, to really grok it. And I think that's fair. And I think that they would even I think that even the game designers would say that there's some truth to that. Yeah. There we go. I want to change the font on Vinland. Let's pick what else we got here. I don't know if any of these are better. Probably not. Maybe I like that a little bit better. John says, I looked away for a few minutes and it's so much cooler. I mean, that's the power of blend modes. That's the power of filters, Yes, exactly. John is the case in point. Exactly. He's like, holy shit, this looks awesome. Boothby. All right, buddy. Well, you know what? I'm going to head out too. It's 11 o'clock here. So, again, I just wanted to hang out with everybody. We're going to be offline for at least a few days. We're not going to stream tomorrow. But we might be back Thursday again. I pretty much have the week off. I mean, I got to keep some things running for work. But the next 2 weeks for me are super, super light. So I'm going to try to use that to catch up with some work that I need to do for around the house, of course. Wrap up some stuff for year-end stuff for work. And then, I have some things that I've been working on for the KLLC channel. I've got, we're wrapping up the end of Southern Beaches, which is sort of Northern Reaches pseudo season 3. So we need to start thinking about wrapping that up and starting the new season. Bob and I want to start Dragontide. I'd hope that we could have gotten that off in the fall, but after the fire and all the chaos that was my life, I just didn't think that was going to happen. And then I got it ready for these Torchbearer games, and of course, I also still want to figure out what game I'm going to be running for my home game whenever, in case of point, that comes. And I'd like to run potentially another game as well for my patrons, because playing with them is really fun, and they're a good group of people, and I want to take advantage of that as well. So yeah, he has a great series of build. Oh, Anto, yeah, Anto's cool. I got to meet Anto. Look up Icarus Games. He has a great series of buildings a world map with his channel members. Cool. Yeah, I don't know that I ever saw those, but I definitely am familiar with his work. And yeah, I mean, again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's $5 a month, but if you have fun with it and you use it and you get some good point out. Also, I think you could probably sign up for it for a month or two, make your maps, and then not sign up for it anymore. But we're living in the future. This is all on the cloud and it doesn't require any of your resources, so it's pretty cool in that respect. All right, folks. Well, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you so much to Vin, Zymel, and Tundalis for the super chats and tips. It's very much appreciated. I hope you all have a wonderful, safe, happy, healthy holiday, whatever that means for you. But so, Merry Christmas if you're celebrating that in the next couple of days. Happy holidays and just a prosperous new year for us all. Hopefully I'll see you before then. We did, remember, achieve our tip goal earlier. So I am going to be streaming next Tuesday for New Year's Eve. So if you're like me and you don't like to go out and party anymore because you're an old man who hates fun, this is the place to be. So shout out to the new dumpster fire chat. Yes, the dumpster fire has officially returned as the dumpster fire. It is back. in all of its flaming glory. Yes, it was fun hang. Thanks everybody for being here. And again, I hope to see you next time on Night's the Last Call. Peace out.